Ed Rusha, this was obviously an amazing opportunity, and it was the first portrait that I'd done on my kind of leg of portraits, because LA was the first place that I'd gone to, and so I sort of started at the top really. So I arrived, and Ed has a wonderful team and 2 dogs. Were greeted. He was very gracious, very sweet, very laid back. We had a really interesting conversation, actually. We talked a lot about China, strangely, because my father was putting up a sculpture there, and he told me he'd never actually had a solo exhibition in China, which I thought was really interesting. We talked about his surfboards that he was doing for a charity. We discussed a desk that he had in his office, which was this kind of seemed very out of place, and it was from Italy, I seem to remember. It was the one thing in his studio that didn't fit with his aesthetic, and I think that's why I asked him what it was. But it had a lot of meaning and personal history to him, as well as history within the piece. It was an old wooden sort of European, I think it was French or Italian. Anyway, the portrait itself, actually, he said, "Where do you want me?" And to sit or stand, and I just quite often just say, "Well, as you are." And so with this one, I just started taking some pictures, and he shut his eyes literally for 5 seconds probably. One of the pictures that I took was that particular one. And when I left, I started to think about Ed being maybe the age he was, and the fact that he's this kind of LA legend and a god almost in a way to people in LA, or the art world. And he's very humble too. So there's something dreamlike about this, like LA can be with his eyes shut. There's something spiritual about it. I feel like that he's meditative. There's a kind of statuesque quality to it, where he might be praying or thinking or meditating. And so behind him is one of his famous artworks. Oh, and then he was wearing this sailfish t-shirt, and it reminded me of, Hemingway's book. And so there was that kind of connotation about as well. I've printed him on clear blue acrylic because it just felt very LA. There's something about plastic clear acrylic, or in his case, blue. And I just tried to match that blue with the light on his shirt.